After this happy beginning, I'm looking for a very successful night of confounding the panel, particularly Bennett Cerf. We will also have a famous mystery guest a little bit later in the program, and we'll meet our first challenger after this. And now let's meet our first contestant. Will you enter and sign in, please? Freda Rowe. Is that right? Is it Miss or Mrs. Rowe?
Mrs.
Mrs. Rowe, and where are you from, Mrs. Rowe?
Falls Church, Virginia.
Falls Church, Virginia. It's nice to have you with us. May I present the panel, Mrs. Rowe? Now, would you join me over here, please? Do you know how we keep score, Mrs. Rowe?
Yes.
In that event, we'll let the audience here in the theater and those who are watching at home know exactly what your line is. Panel, we can tell you that Mrs. Rowe is salaried and deals in a service, and we'll begin the general questioning with Murgatroyd Cerf.
Murgatroyd. Sounds as though you've been seeing Camelot last night. Mrs. Rowe, may I ask the exact location of Falls Church? Is it anywhere near Richmond?
About 50 miles, maybe 80. I'm not too good
No,
with
actually,
spots.
I think 50 miles from Richmond would be a pretty good
North
count.
of Richmond, between Richmond and Washington, would you say?
It's in the area between Richmond and Washington.
Do you possibly perform a service for a non-profit-making organization?
Yes.
Would you have anything to do with government work?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Can men and women avail themselves of your service?
Yes, ma'am.
Would they come to you for your service?
Not usually.
Not usually. I think we would have to agree that
No.
in the great preponderance of cases, Mrs. Rowe would have to go to them to give the service. So I'll give you a no. That's 2 down and 8 to go, Lord Boothby.
Do you enjoy the service that you render?
Yes, sir.
Do you think it does other people good?
I hope so.
Yeah. Do you think it would do me good?
Absolutely.
It would do me good, yeah. Would I like to render this service myself? Could I render it?
I would say if you had the abilities, background, and training to render the service, you would take pleasure, certainly, in rendering it to others, yes.
Would I do it indoors or outdoors?
Indoors.
Indoors. Would I wear any kind of a uniform if I did it?
Yes.
An overall, that kind of thing?
No.
No, not an overall. That's 3 down and 7 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
John, I may have gotten confused, but did Mrs. Rowe say that she generally went to the people in order to perform her service?
Perform the service, yes.
And she wears a distinguishing uniform, which is not an overall. But if you were wearing it now, we'd know what you did. Is that right?
Yes.
Does it have any insignia on it?
It does not necessarily, but it could. I think that's a fair answer, isn't it, Mrs. Rowe?
Would your work cause you to have anything to do with food or drink?
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be, in any sense, considered domestic work?
No.
4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mrs. Rowe, would you have, in the course of your services, anything to do with doctors?
Yes.
Would the uniform that you wear in any way resemble a nurse's uniform?
Yes.
Is it a white uniform that you wear?
Yes.
Are you a nurse?
Yes. A very particular nurse. Just for fun, let's see if you can figure what particular fact of the moment of history makes Mrs. Rowe's present assignment.
Did you have something to do with the birth of the Kennedy baby?
Good going, Bennett. Wonderful. Actually, Mrs. Rowe is one of the 3 nurses on a, 24-hour basis who's been taking care of the president-elect's son at Georgetown Hospital in Washington, but you were trained in Alliance, Ohio, in the city hospital there.
Who does the baby look like?
Winston Churchill, they all do.
Thank you. Looks just like a baby. Very
Just like a
sweet.
baby. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I must say, I'm sure that this is an exciting experience for you as a nurse, and certainly a profession which brings much joy and much sense of service. But this particular assignment, I think, will stay in your mind as the fact of Mr. Master Kennedy's birth will stay in ours for a long time.
Sure it will.
And thank you very much for being our guest on What's My Mind.